Hello everyone. On this video, I am about 65 kilometers northeast of Prague. I've been living in Czech Republic for about 2 years now, almost 2 years. One of the fascinating things about Czech Republic is the fact that only 30 years ago, this country was under the rule of the Eastern Bloc. Since then, they have come a long way, but there are still some traces of the Soviet Union and Soviet military machine in this country. I have visited this place about a year ago, last summer, but at the same time, I just wanted to see more of it. Unfortunately, a lot of the buildings have been taken down. Unfortunately, a lot of the bunkers have been taken down. But today, I have actually encountered some weird experiences, so you're going to see those in the video. I just wanted to show you some of the things that I have experienced today and also partially last summer. This place used to be actually a training facility from all the way from back in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire days before World War I. And after World War I, Czechoslovakia was established, and still it was used as a training grounds, aviation-wise, of course. And then after the invasion of the Germans ended up using this place as a training ground. And then after the 68 occupation of the Soviets, they used this place mainly for training purposes, but they also stored some nuclear bombs, and they also kept some MiG-29s over here. As late as 1991, on these skies that you see behind me, there were MiG-29s flying. And they trained pilots from all over the Soviet Empire, basically from people from Ukraine, people from Bulgaria, people from even as far as Kazakhstan. They were trained in here. They established their own community in here. They established their own little town called Boží dar, which means God's gift. And there are only very, very few buildings left out of that era. But I have some pictures that you will be surprised how big this complex was and how big of a place this base was. So stay tuned.
Okay, this is one of the areas where you can see it's either a guard post or it's a generator building for the facilities. You can see some smokestack in the background, and there's a building next to it. It's actually still functional. It's for a private business. I just entered one of the side roads. And as you can see, the road is pretty narrow to be a taxiway, but it's one of the support roads. It was not blocked by a gate, or there was a gate, but it was open, so I decided to enter here. Okay, this is just a few fuel tanks. It's like there are a few of them in here. Obviously, since it was a very popular base, a very busy base, they needed a lot of fuel. And because of the fact that it's a military base and it's impossible for them to store the fuel tank above the ground, so they stored everything under the ground. Since they left in 1991, there's plenty of these that they were eliminated, and they were extracted from the ground and then after that eliminated. Unfortunately, it's up to the Czechs to do that work right now. And I'm going to see if I can go inside of one of the tanks or actually get a little bit close to it. You can see an excavator over there in the distance where they're breaking some grounds over there, but I don't know what they're exactly doing. I don't know if they're just basically covering the area that these tanks were, or if they're just basically doing some other work. Looking at the tanks pretty close, as you can see, they're in pretty dismal condition, and they've been here for quite a while. I mean, if you consider the fact that they haven't been maintained since 1991, since the Soviets left, that tells you right there the amount of time that they spent on the ground. There's a very awful smell. It's not foul smell. It's not even, of course, fuel smell, because it's been a while since they stored some fuel in there. But I think it's just kind of like a rusted metal that I smell. And as you can see, there's a ladder into the fuel tank. And despite the fact that they're laid on the side, it looks like they just basically put these things on the ground vertically. So you're looking at the area where these tanks were stored. And I don't know if there are more of these under the ground, but there's a guy over there that's kind of like looking at me kind of funny from the distance. Maybe I should just basically get out of here. Yep, I'm just going westbound on the road, and on the south side of the car, you'll be able to see some of the bunkers, the elevated areas on the left-hand side of the car. They're just basically what it's left out of the hangars and the bunkers. Some of them are still used. One or two of them are still used.
So I had a close call with some kind of a guard. So you have seen the videos of the fuel tanks that I have taken, of the fuel tanks that they're extracting from the ground. The fuel tanks left by the Russians, of course. It was a pretty interesting sight, but the construction people over there, they did not like me being there. Well, I mean, I was just driving around the base, and pretty much all the roads are closed with some metal gates. But this gate was open. So the gate was open. I found a road. Obviously, I'm just going to go in there and poke my nose into it, right? So I did that. I took the videos of the fuel tanks. That was pretty interesting sight. At the same time, you know, at the corner of my eye, I could see just some guy trying to figure out what I was doing over there, why I was filming, and all that stuff. So this is on the kind of north side of the field, but going from the middle end of the field towards the west side. So I just kept going. I saw the guy at the corner of my eye. I hopped into my car, and then I just kept going. Well, the road was closed on the west side, so I had to do a U-turn and come back around. Well, while I was doing that, this sort of asshole was just basically laying a trap on me, and he basically shut the door that I entered through. So with my limited amount of check, I tried to explain to him. He was asking me, he was pretty angry. He was like, what are you doing in here, and all that kind of stuff. And I tried to explain to him, like, I'm filming video, YouTube. I am a pilot. Oh, I tried to say all these things in Czech. I should study more. But at the end of the day, he was like, my chef speaks English and all that stuff. So I ended up just basically going back with the guy. He was walking out. He didn't get into my car. And going back to talk to his chef, who was somewhat fluent in English. And we just started to talk, and he was asking me, he was angry too, and he was asking me what I was doing in here. And at the end of the day, I showed him some pictures from my flights and all that stuff. I told him that I'm a 747 pilot. That kind of smoothened the mood a little bit, and then, you know, they let me go. Thank God. Baha, have you ever been in a Turkish prison? No. Have you ever been in a Czech prison? Pretty close. Talk to you guys later.
All right, this is the huge tarmac area on the northern side of the field. This is on this sort of like a northeast side and the actual north central side of the field. It's a huge tarmac. They used to have the tower in here, but it doesn't exist anymore. And then I keep driving and driving, and there's no end to it. You can see some kind of a truck hauling away some of the debris from the demolition. But if you think about it, there were some MiGs, many of them in here on this area, as you can see in this picture. It will give you an idea how big this place is. And I'll be driving onto the northeast corner on the field.
As you can see, not much left out of the bunkers from the Soviets. This was on the one of the 4 bunkers on the northeast corner of the field. They're all being demolished. They're all being taken down, and I don't know what's going to happen after that. So this is the second one that I'm showing, and then there's a third one in here. And just on the left hand side, there's a 4th one. These are the 4 bunker areas, where aircraft storage areas, where I think they were making people ready to fly or something like that, because there's only 4 of them, and it's right by the approach end of the runway. So they're not here anymore. До свидания, Soviets. East end of the field, that taxiway is leading to the runway. The airport is decommissioned, but they're still using for model airplanes and for ultralights. This is the huge, I mean, huge ramp space on the east side of the field. You can see how huge it is. The machinery that you see on the far end, it's just basically not even halfway through the field. So it's a pretty long runway. It's a pretty huge base. I'm sure they stationed a lot of airplanes back in the day in here. But this is the biggest ramp on the field right now in the northeast corner. If you check it out in the Google Earth, you'll be able to see it. Not much left out of it. And surprisingly enough, they're not using it for their own military, for Czech military. Some Soviet bases, they have been converted to Czech Air Force bases, but not this one. I'm just gonna drive on it in a minute. As you can see, it's not as wide as the North taxiway, while the entire support complex of the base was on the north side. So that explains the reason why this one is narrow as it is. And hopefully, if they did not demolish it from last summer, I'll be able to show you the hangar where they used to maintain the MiGs as well. But again, that's on the north side of the field.
All right, this is the footage from the summer of 2019. This is the very first time that I visited this place, but did not spend that much time. Remember the bunkers that I was showing you while I was driving through that road? That's one of them. And you can see there's some kind of a support building to it. This is on the northwest corner of the field, and on this video, I'm actually on foot. So obviously I'm not going to get into the runway, but at the same time, you can see some of the areas where the taxiways were. And again, like you have seen on the northeast corner, here on the northwest corner, you see a small area where they used to have bunkers and they were storing the aircraft, just in case they need to scramble the aircraft really, really fast. The taxiway is in pretty bad condition. I mean, you can see the plants growing through the cracked concrete, and not much left, only debris on the left out of the bunkers. So as we're going close to the hangars that are actually still erected, you can see the enormous and how heavy the hangar doors are. Obviously, they needed some kind of a power system to operate these. They needed some kind of a power system to open them and close them. There's only like maybe 2 or 3 of them left that they're still actually used by aero clubs in here. I don't know how they're operating it right now, but obviously they're operating it. But the door is closed right now, and it's fascinating that they use huge amount of steel and huge amount of concrete to make this place a safe one. And here's the most fascinating, I think, building that it's left out of the Soviets in here. This hangar, I was told that it was used for maintenance purposes. I don't know if you can fit a MiG-29 through it. Obviously, they probably did, or maybe they maintained them in the bunkers. But it's a huge hangar, and it's in pretty bad condition. Obviously, it hasn't been maintained since the Soviets left in 1991. But the roof is still pretty much intact. In certain parts, it's cracking, but I don't know how safe it is, but I'm just going to basically poke my nose into it. I find it a little bit sad that, these buildings are basically turning into rubble because of the fact that, they could have used it for something else, for another aviation purpose, or they could have just basically restored this place as some kind of a historical landmark to show the next generations, how Soviet times were. But if you think about it, 35 years ago, there were MiGs in this hangar where I'm standing right now. Here I am on the inside of it. And it was one of the biggest bases, pretty close to the Western Europe, that was occupied by the Soviets at the time. And there's a rumor that they also stored some nuclear bombs in here, but obviously not in this hangar, but in this base.
Some portion of it has been renovated, as you can see it. They just basically pour some asphalt on it. They're using it for light sport aircraft, or they're using it for there's some jet traffic that I hear. Maybe I should get out of here. Runway, as late as 1991, they had MiG-29s flying out of here. And apparently this base was a huge training ground for anybody in the Soviet times. My day has come to an end. This is the runway where they used to fly MiG-29s. This guy in front of me approached me and he said, "This is a private area. You cannot be here." So he told me to follow him. There are some Kit Fox airplanes in there. Trying to take a picture of it. I don't know why they're having a beef about this, but these are the bunkers. Luckily last summer I was able to take some pictures of them and the video. You can really tell that this was a military town. I mean, these are private houses right now, but they look like they were built for military purposes, military housing. There's a bunch of these in this portion of the town of Milovice, and I bet that they were military housing complexes from Soviet times.